Are you ready to go around the world? Sit back, relax, and buckle your seatbelt as we take off for an adventure. It's jet-lag free but filled full of fun and travel insights. The only thing you'll need to pack is a sense of humor. Time for the award-winning travel show, Around the World.
And welcome to another edition of Around the World. Do you realize we're in our 20th season? Been doing this a very, very long time, and we're still having fun and still going around the world.
That is one long-running show. I'm so excited.
Rebecca Brand is in this week for Arthur von Wiesenberger. I'm Martha Bull. I've been sitting in the co-pilot seat for most of those 20 years. But we have actually some really fun things to hear about today. Michael Cervin is a Santa Barbara wine and food guy that writes about that all the time. He's amazing, and he just came out with a new book called Santa Barbara Know-It-All, and it's kind of like the comedy and fun stuff of Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara visiting here.
And really, lots of good tips, and so we're going to have him here today. We're going to talk to a fellow by the name of Jerry Holl. We talked to him a couple weeks ago about his trip from Alaska to Mexico on his bicycle when he had never ever taken a long bike trip, and he did it. And today he's actually going to be talking to us about Mount Everest and the epic traveling to that part of the world.
And I hear he's not really an athlete, and yet he does these adventurous things.
He's in relatively good shape. I think he was 57 when he did the bike ride. Anyway, and I'm going to be taking you to Malaga, Spain, which is in southeastern Spain. And then Arthur von Wiesenberger is going to take us over to Switzerland, and we're going to go up into the Swiss Alps and find out all about that. But first, we're going to talk about travel news.
Travel news is brought to you by the internet website, atw.tv. atw.tv is the first place to go, even to visit the last place on Earth.
Okay, so Martha,
Yeah.
do you like classic cars?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Well, on Route 66 in the United States, there is now the biggest classic car museum of the world, of the nation.
Okay.
And it's just opening.
Okay.
It's called Decadence on Wheels. And it is located in Kansas on Route 66 in this town called Baxter Springs.
Okay.
And they're having this big grand opening in October. They have, I think 300 different cars, including from a private collection. Somebody donated all these cars. Somebody had 300, including the Munsters, Dracula Mobile, and Herbie, the little love bug, and a bunch of Bat cars and all the fun stuff. And a bunch more. So,
And when's it opening?
It's opening October 12th with the band Grand Funk Railroad. Remember, we're an American band. Okay.
Well, it's good because it's...
Yeah, so they're having this big party. I think I want to go. And so, all the way from the Model T all the way up to the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Oh, yeah.
So we, in this area, have a really fun car show. It's called Roadster Roses.
Okay.
And Gary Dobbins puts this on, and people of Carpinteria, and it had 250 cars this year.
Wow.
And
Do they
in
come
fact,
from
let's
all over?
roll the video on this one. And there's me at the Foster's booth. They have a little precursor of cars that people bring out that's going to be in the show.
Are you stealing that car?
I'm goofing around, man. I'm having a good old time. Gary Dobbins' friend Laura owns up Foster Free, so they have this really fun party there, and it shows all the great cars, and they just come from everywhere to be in this show. It's one of the biggest in America, and the guys, it's a bunch of guys and gearheads, and they rev their engines up, and they just, it's like oh my God, those mufflers on those things are so loud. It's so fun.
Is this just once a year?
This is a once a year Roadster Roses.
Okay.
And they take over the whole town of Carpinteria. There's Michael Hammer's car. Michael and Misty Hammer have these really cool cars. It's called Hammer Time.
Oh, how cool
and
is
this is one. There's something about the Bahamas is I think where this car is from. Look at how cute that is. Could you imagine running around?
It does
an
not
island
look
in that
very
car?
comfortable though.
Well, and it's fueled by the Jack Daniels. I don't know if you saw that, but that's so funny. And then they also have this orange truck. That they did one of their cars. I mean, he's got all his cars. So really amazing cars show up at this, and you can talk to the owners. You can see all about their wonderful passion of classic cars, muscle cars, old-fashioned cars, Model Ts, everything right here in our own backyard, as well as Decades of Wheels. To find out more about the Decades of Wheels, you can go to decadesofwheels.com and check it out if you want to go see that, if you're ever going to be on Route 66.
I've driven parts of that Route 66. It's pretty exciting. Well, speaking of, this is such a cute, sad story. Okay, the Australian Federal Police bomb response team was called into the Adelaide Airport in South Australia earlier this week after some unattended luggage in a woman's restroom set off a security scare. They didn't know what was in the luggage, so they called in the bomb squad. Well, it turns out inside the unattended bag was a young male dwarf rabbit who was wearing a red harness but was left with no identification. So they
unidentified bunny.
Apparently everybody fell in love with this little bunny. He's really, really well behaved, and everybody,
therapy bunny.
So the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in Australia is taking care of him. They decided to name him Boeing, and now they're trying desperately to find out who the owner is. And
Can I just claim him?
Isn't he adorable? Everybody fell in love with him, but apparently they think maybe somebody left him because they were going to try to sneak him on a plane or something, and then it got nervous that they couldn't do that, and they figured if they left it in an airport, he'd be okay. So anyway, that's the story of
Boeing?
Bunny named Boeing. And I'll see if I can't find out if he ever found his home, but that's a pretty funny story. I love animal stories. I'm just a sucker for that. Anyway, coming up right after this break, we're going to be talking to Jerry Holl, and he's going to be taking us on an epic adventure up to Mount Everest. It sounds unbelievable, and definitely.
And he's not an athlete. I just got to underline that part.
And I do know for a fact
for us all.
He would do it again. He says he would do it again, and he says it really he learned so much about himself. So it's a very inspiring story. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Colossus of Rhodes, the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Just tune in to the award-winning travel show Around the World, live on Thursdays on AM 1290 and at www.atw.tv, with rebroadcasts on Thursdays at 8 p.m. and again on Saturdays at 10 a.m. for the only list that really stands out and can stand the test of time.
Back on Around the World. I'm Martha Bull, Rebecca Brand, sitting in for the ever-traveling Arthur von Wiesenberger. And on the phone right now, we're lucky enough to have a gentleman that we had on the last show. His name's Jerry Holl. As we just mentioned, he was on. It's a crazy thing. I think it's wonderful. But he decided he wanted to do something epic, and he decided he was going to ride his bicycle from Alaska to Mexico, and he did it. Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong. 51 days it took you?
It took me 51 days.
61 days.
I only pedaled 43 of the 51, and I just took the other days for rest, just thinking I might need it, but I never really felt like I needed a lot of rest.
So Jerry, Martha was explaining to me that you didn't even prepare for this, that you really weren't athletically inclined to bicycle. Is that true? Could you explain this?
It's totally true, and not only beyond that, I was 57, at the time, and generally in good shape. So don't get me wrong, I don't want to delude your audience, but I was in good shape, but I didn't prepare cycling-wise. I didn't prepare both physically for cycling, nor did I really prepare or plan the trip. It was really pretty much on a lark.
Did you do athletic
activity? By the time
activity?
I resigned and was on the road on a bicycle, it was within 30 days.
Wow.
So, but were you like working out regularly and doing other kinds of workouts so your heart would be in good shape? Just because?
Yeah,
okay,
I was.
okay.
To be honest with you, I was, and so I've always maintained pretty good physical fitness. So in my mindset was, I just plain think I can do this, even though you're not specifically in cycling shape, and I wasn't cycling, and I wasn't a long distance cycler. I never cycled more than, say, 20 miles in any given outing.
Wow.
But on the other hand, the way I looked at it is, I'll have plenty of time to get in shape along the way. And I do have a knowledge that your body's pretty resilient, and you can kind of get in shape pretty quickly.
Well, now you're talking today with us about another trip you took, and that sounds pretty gnarly too. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the trip I took since, I've done several trips since the Alaska to Mexico, but the one I most recently came back from about a month ago was a trek to Everest Base Camp. And that is a pretty grueling trek. I don't want to let your audience know that it's very doable, but even when you're in good shape, it is still a grueling trek. But people shouldn't let that get in the way of them making the attempt. But what I would suggest to them is really do get yourself in generally good physical condition, and it's a magnificent trip. You just can't describe it.
What's the elevation when you start and where you ended up?
Well, the elevation, you fly into Kathmandu, which is under 5,000 feet, but then you fly to this little town called Lukla, which is known as the most dangerous airport in the world. It's a short takeoff and landing airport that one of the end of the runway is right at the edge of a drop-off, and it is really short. And that's at about 9,400 feet. And
So it's hard to breathe.
Yeah, well, that's especially, I'm a flatlander. I mean, I'm from Minneapolis.
Right.
So I'm not training at elevation. So I'm coming from, say, an elevation of 500 or so feet where I live. And then you're, in a matter of 24 to 36 hours, you're at 10,000 feet. And so you're trying to acclimate as you go. And you're starting from behind anyway, because I'm not living at 12,000 feet in one of the mountain states.
And were you getting headaches and things like that? Because I know altitude can do things to you.
It's
Well, you know what? Martha, here's what's really interesting about that is I've done a couple 14ers in Colorado, and flying from Minneapolis into Colorado, then you're kind of in the car getting to where you're going to start that 14er ascent,
Right.
and it's all done in about a day. And so when you're at 14,000 feet that quickly, I have had headaches up there, even though they weren't debilitating. They were just headaches.
Right.
In this case, I did not get headaches. It was, from the 10,000 feet, 9,300 feet from Lukla up. They acclimate. It was 8 days up. It's 3 days down in the trek that I did, and you're acclimating as you go. And despite it being grueling, my doc put me on on a preventative drug called Diamox for climbers.
Have you heard that? I haven't heard that. Okay.
It's Diamox, and it's so what it does is it lessens your chances of having acute mountain sickness and high altitude pulmonary edema or high altitude cerebral edema. So I was taking that. I was drinking 5 quarts of water a day, which if you haven't drunk 5 quarts of water a day, it's hard.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But you're doing all of that, and I'm doing things trying to manage my health. I never had one headache. I never lost my appetite. I lost my appetite at 14 when you're doing it in a matter of 24 hours.
Sure.
But so I lost my appetite at 14, but you get it back at about 11. But I never lost the appetite, even all the way up to Everest Base Camp. I didn't lose my appetite. And that's up just under 18,000 feet.
And how do you have Sherpas when you climb?
I did have Sherpas up. You know, there was a lead guide that knew the trail, and then he had a junior guide. But what was interesting is the lead guide does a really good job of sort of observing the contingent that he's guiding. There were 11 in our group, and he's watching constantly, but he's not saying much, but he's seeing who's struggling and who's not. Right. And in any given day, somebody else is struggling. But of our 11 trekkers that started, 3 were medevaced off the mountain for acute mountain sickness, pulmonary edema, or cerebral edema.
Oh, that sounds pretty life-threatening illnesses, medevaced.
Well, I mean, it's those illnesses they're life-threatening if you don't take care of them. Yeah. But if you go down and get out of altitude quickly, then you recover pretty quickly. So the helicopters are actually pretty busy up in the Holl area. And what the lead guide does a really good job of doing is just observing his clients or her clients and seeing where they are, and then also has a blood oximeter in his pack, and also has a shot, and I can't remember, a dexamethadone or something like that, that if he absolutely needs to give that to somebody to give them a boost to get them down, then so he's got all that in his emergency kit. Right. But basically, he in my case, my guy did a really good job of discussing the status of the different people who were struggling and bring it to where it was their own decision, but he was prepared to step in and make the decision if he had to.
Here's a question for you. Would you do it again?
You know what? I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I'm not sure I'd say that in the middle of the trek, because it's so interesting when you put yourself out and do out of bounds type things. In the middle of it, you're cold, you're tired, you're hungry, you're miserable, you're aching. The food wasn't exactly what you'd call gourmet. The living conditions were really primitive. I mean,
it's not a good sales. This is not a good sales pitch.
It's not. So here's what I'm taking you through to where I'm going to end with. And in the end, when you think through all that stuff, the cultures, it's magnificent. It is absolutely magnificent. It's life-changing. And if you don't come away from a trip like that feeling different, then why did you take the trip? Sure. So having said all of that, I adjusted, and all of a sudden I realized the magnificence of it all and the ability to do it. But I will say you have to manage your health. Yeah. You manage your health along the way.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm sure you learn a lot about yourself on a trip like that.
Is there like a spectator sport place, like a cocktail lounge and a hotel at base camp that we can just like cheer you guys on to go do all that and help you get down the hill when you come home and give you a margarita?
Well, here's what they tell you, and I honored it pretty well, even though it's difficult for me to do. But I didn't drink alcohol on the way up because it's bad for acclimation. Sure. But on the way back down, there were some great little lounges and pubs that
and you earned it.
Of course I earned, and I partook.
Okay. Well, Jerry, we've run out of time. We so enjoyed talking to you, and I guess you have a few more trips to tell us about, so we'll hear from you in the not too distant future.
You'll hear from me shortly, and what I want to tell your listeners is go now, pick those things, and do them while you can, while you got the energy. They are life-changing, and that's what you really want to be doing.
So we're taking it from the expert. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Nice
okay, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jerry.
Nice talking to you.
Appreciate it.
See you later.
When we come back, we're going to be talking to Michael Cervin, who just put out this book called Santa Barbara Know-It-All, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what's between the covers.
Know-it-all, a real know-it-all.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Self-proclaimed. Around the World. I'm Rebecca Brand.
I'm Martha Bull.
Martha Bull. And we have an exciting host.
do.
I'm so excited to have Michael Cervin on today, or we're having Michael
That's
Cervin
right.
on today with
Author.
his book, Know It All,
Right.
about Santa Barbara. He is a writer for the news press. He's written for the Hollywood Reporter. He does all kinds of rob reports, and he's a very, very well, how do I say it? Very
You know a lot.
know a lot.
You know it all, but you also know a lot.
It ties in with the title.
Yeah,
of the book,
exactly. So what prompted you? Because I remember when we talked about it, you just it was just about to come out,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you talked about it. You wanted it to be kind of fun and funny.
Well, when I did my first Santa Barbara travel book back in 2010, I gave a copy to my mom because I give her copies of my books, and she said, "Oh dear, I'm reading it cover to cover," and I thought, why? Why would you read that cover to cover? It's
You're
a
not
travel
going
book.
Solvang next week, Mom. You might want to save that chapter for when you go to Solvang.
But even that, they're not that interesting typically, and I've written 4 of them, and I thought, why shouldn't a travel book, be entertaining and informative and fun to read like you would read any other book?
Right.
And so I thought, this is the book, and this is the book I wanted to write 10 years ago. And so because my mom kind of planted that seed of like reading something to cover, even if you don't come to Santa Barbara, I think that it's a great read. It's fun, it's funny. I see people laughing all the time. So I was spying on a woman today in a bookstore, and I started flipping through it and giggling, and I'm like, perfect.
Nice.
Good. So you really do cover a lot. I mean, I'm just working my way through it. I'm not reading cover to cover. Sorry.
Oh man.
But I'm picking it up, and I'm loving to read about the beaches and where you can take dogs to the beaches, and I'm loving the restaurants. And some of the restaurants are a little different than I would have predicted. Like there's some, like I don't think you have
been a
La
restaurant
Superica in
critic
there.
too.
Yeah.
That's one of the occupations.
Well, I did that for the news press for 8 years, but one of the things to me that's unique about this book, because anybody can write a travel book, was to say that everything in here has been fully vetted. I've stayed at every hotel, I've done the scuba diving, I've done the hang gliding, I've done the races, I've done the biking and the hiking, and eaten all the restaurants and stayed at all the hotels, so I know everything because I've done it.
Right.
A lot of travel books, people go, oh, I have to put in a listing of 25 hotels, and so they just throw in whatever they can,
Right.
and it's like, well, but you're not really getting that vetted by the author.
Right.
So for me, I really wanted something that you may disagree with me, but certainly these are the places that I think really kind of showcase Santa Barbara. There's always things, Martha, that you can't get into a book, and like the first week it came out, someone said, well, how come my restaurant's not in there? I'm like, I can't do everything.
Walking around this town and I'm having the rest of just hope they don't get the
People throwing eggs at me, but you can't get everything in. You can try and do the best, but I think this really kind of gives a comprehensive view of Santa Barbara. And new things have opened since the book has even come out. So
Of course.
Yes.
And closed.
And
probably.
closed. Well, only a couple. Only a couple.
So, are there like any hidden secrets that
Yes.
that you shared with people?
Absolutely. There's always hidden secrets because I wanted locals to be able to buy this too and say, well, I've lived here for 30 years, and there's things you don't know.
Right.
I was just talking to someone today about the original Habit Burger out in Goleta, which was started in 1969. They actually have a secret menu out there they don't list, and no one knows about it. If you want a chili cheeseburger, they actually have that sauce. It was the original sauce they made, and when it franchised out, they kept that to themselves. And you can't find it anywhere but there, but if you go there and you order it, you can have it.
That makes me want to go there.
Yeah, it's definitely good to be like in the know.
Well, and I also talk about the Franceschi Steps, which I think is just a great underrated and unknown thing that we have here in Santa Barbara, whether you want to hike the steps and go up and down the Riviera, or whether you just want to go, what the heck was this guy
And
doing?
go to Franceschi Park.
And go to
which
Franceschi
I've never
Park.
gone, and all these people that have lived in Santa
It's so
Barbara say,
beautiful,
you've got
yeah.
to go, Rebecca. You haven't been to Franceschi Park
Well,
yet.
some of the best views of downtown.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You get the harbor, it's framed by 2 big eucalyptus trees, and when it's amber sunset, it's beautiful.
Now, did they redo the Franceschi house? Because I know they were talking.
They were
about
talking about it. They haven't raised enough money, so the house is still in disrepair. It's still fun to look at because you go, wow, this is nuts.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy house. So I don't know if it'll get repaired the way we'd like it to, but it's still a great place to go and hang out and take a picnic if you want.
Now, did you? I didn't check, but did you mention like Hendry's? No, what's it called? The castle.
Knapp's Castle.
Knapp's Castle.
I always
That's right,
mention Knapp's Castle, in part because my wife and I did wedding photos up there.
Yes.
So
Now, tell us a little bit about what Knapp's Castle is, because it's hard to find usually.
Well, yeah, I mean, I give detailed directions in the book, so
Yeah.
you shouldn't get lost. I mean, but it's things.
It can happen.
Bring water, bring food.
Bring a helmet flare gun. Knapp's Castle was actually built by a guy named Owen Knapp, who was a very wealthy oil guy. And he has a big house in Montecito called Arcady. and he built Knapp's Castle, which was it was called the Lodge at San Marcos. That's what it originally was called when it was built in the 20s. And it was a 7-building, it was a huge complex.
Right.
And he sold it off. It was amazing because you get these stunning views of the valley.
Lake Kachuma you can see?
You can see Lake Kachuma, just parts of it, but you can see all the way down the valley. It's up on this perch, and so you get all this wind. There's eagles that fly all over the place up there because it's just so high up. And a new owner bought it in the early 1940s, and then within, I think, 6 or 7 weeks, it burned down.
So it's just the shell.
Yeah, so all that remains now are these kind of eerie-looking couple chimneys that just kind of jut out of the earth, and a few stone pieces. A new owner has bought the property. He's actually been restoring some things. Not like there's a bunch of rooms you can wander in, but he's been restoring it. But it's just this kind of like weird.
Like what is this doing out in the middle of nowhere?
Like what happened here? If you know anything about the Wolf House, which is Jack London's house up in Sonoma, same kind of thing. Massive house burned to the ground.
I grew up in Sonoma County,
so yeah,
and I just feel so good.
So it's like that. It's kind of like hidden off, and you're like, well, I'm sorry this place burned down because it looks really cool.
Yeah.
So.
It's a great location. It really is super duper. And there are other. There's one place that was up off of East Mountain, I think, the one that had all the pools. Did you ever go up there? That's actually private
like the
property.
7 pools? Or?
You remember the one, and it was like, I think it was a fellow who made his money in nickel or something, and it was called the Tea House.
Yeah.
And literally there was water that came all the way down in these aqueducts, and then there would be swimming pools, but it was private property.
Right.
We had a friend who knew the people that owned it, and so we got to go out. But it was, I think, abandoned in in the 1920s.
Yeah, it was.
But that's a very cool place.
And we encourage people to travel responsibly. Don't go onto other people's property.
Exactly.
But
if you have a chance to see it, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you have a chance to sneak in, I'm not saying anything. So.
Now, what were your recommendations for hiking in Santa Barbara?
Well, I love Lizard's Mouth, which is up at the Winchester Gun Club.
Oh, yeah, sure.
In part because it's not really so much a hike, but it's pretty easy, but the rock formations are just staggering up there. And you can actually see China from there. You're so far up, the ocean, you're like, I think it's China. But the rock formations are beautiful. I live near the San Marcos Preserve, which is so underutilized and no one really goes to. And so I've written about that because it's just such a great place to visit. I'm up there almost every day. I
think I've seen you up there. When I used to hike, I think I did.
A lot of deer up there. Coyotes. The coyotes, they're funny because I turned a corner one day and there was one staring at me, and I look at him, I'm like, hey, buddy. And, they're very skittish. They don't want to bother anybody. And I actually talk in the book about, if you're hiking, what do you do if you see an animal? You kind of go, about what to do if you come across a snake or something.
Snakes versus cougars?
Well, the cougars are those are the older women, of course, for those of you who don't know. No.
Very funny.
Okay, time's up.
I didn't mean older you. I wasn't looking at you. I better go now. It's been good.
And you probably give advice about rattlesnakes.
Absolutely. And, it's funny because people see snakes, and I see snakes all the time, and they get freaked out by it. But, when you go to a preserve or when you go we're hiking, we're really a guest in that environment. Sure. And if you don't bother them, they're not going to bother you.
Yeah. Well, I had my dog bitten by a rattlesnake, so I do know that you don't want to mess with them.
No, you don't. I used to grow up with rattlesnakes down in La Cañada where I grew up, and there was always rattlers. And we had a dog who was like, what's going on over here?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, Duke, no, get away from there.
And there's so many good snakes.
Absolutely.
I mean, the gopher snakes that, take care of business. And we definitely want those.
Well, certainly right now with the summer and the heat coming out, snakes go outside and they're like, and they hang out on the trail. So you'll see more of them.
I like to sunbathe too.
Exactly.
Like we're all at the beach sunbathing and feeling good and hanging on this rocks
well,
at Hendry's.
if they would use more lotion, their skin would be a little nicer.
Now, you've been doing book signings. Are there going to be any that we need to know about?
The next one coming up is going to be at Tecolote on July 7th, which is in a couple days.
Okay.
I just did one at Costco, which was fun because people come in for a 10-gallon vat of olive oil and go, hey, a book. So,
very funny.
And I found out that at Costco, they don't do book signings out there. It's been Sue Grafton and me.
That's it.
So,
congratulations.
That seems kind of odd because I'm thinking me and Sue Grafton, different level of writers there.
Yeah, kind of just a little different. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
No,
it's
thank
great.
you.
Again, it's called Santa Barbara Know-It-All, available at the local bookstores as well as online.
Online and Amazon. It's all over Santa Barbara. I'm going down to do some signings down in Pasadena, Los Angeles. Book Soup has it in LA.
Okay, and so do you have a website where people can find out about?
I would just go to the Reedy Press website because they have a more comprehensive list of all the things. So, but Distant Lands in Pasadena, Book Soup in Hollywood. So yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for
nice
coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
I will continue to read it, but I'm going to continue to jump around. Sorry about that.
No, you know what? It's actually what we call a great bathroom book. which I hate to say, but that's the book you just leave by the toilet and you like pick up and like, oh, I got a couple minutes here. So, you know, you can do that too, it's fine.
Okay, Michael. Thanks very much. When we come back, I'm going to tell you, this has not been in the bathroom, thank you very much. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about my recent trip to Spain. I went to Malaga, and I can't wait to share the pictures and the stories.
Did you bring some food back? Any tasty
No, I
treats?
ate it all there. It was fantastic. Stay with us.
The Unity Shop, celebrating 100 years of guiding low-income families to self-sufficiency. In times of disaster, no one responds to families in need like the Unity Shop. Immediate assistance with food and clothing, and long-term assistance providing anything disaster victims need to get back on their feet, all with compassion, with dignity, for as long as you need us. To find out more, log on to unityshop.org.
Every morning you could count on it being there with the rise of the sun. We're proud to say we've been there every day with you. The Santa Barbara News Press plans to continue sharing the news of the day with you all through the year and beyond. It's nice to know there are some things you can still count on. The Santa Barbara News Press, serving Santa Barbara since 1855.
We're back on Around the World. I'm Martha Bull.
And I'm Rebecca Brand.
Sitting in for Arthur von Wiesenberger.
Yeah,
He's on the road again.
Arthur.
And I just got back from being on the road, and last time we spoke about London, and today I'm going to talk about Malaga. And you probably are wondering, where's Malaga? It's in Spain. It's in southeastern Spain. It's on the Mediterranean. It's literally a beach city. It's beautiful, it's clean, they have the old city, huge old cathedral, and all the streets in the old city are marble. And they keep that place so clean, and
marble streets
throughout.
That's
throughout
amazing.
And we actually stayed at a hotel called Molina Lario. And it was just at the edge of the old city, because the way it's situated, across the street is the beach, and they've got gorgeous sands, white sand, and very popular. It's a resort town. People come in from all over Europe to go to the beach, but you can also go to the old city. Like we stayed at the hotel. It was really lovely. I brought my little dog called Cedo. You remember Ty Warner's?
Like a teddy bear.
It's a little. It was made after the debris flow, and Ty Warner made these little dogs to give to first responders and to the kids that were affected by it. So I carried Cedo everywhere in Europe with me and took pictures with him. This is taking a look at the cathedral, which was built, I think, back in I think they started like 1500s.
1500s, wow.
They stopped it in the 1700s. They needed money to send. Supposedly Spain was going to send some money to the States or during the Revolutionary War, so they were going to send money to help the fight. I don't know. Anyway, I think it was just a big scam, but they stopped building that. But the buildings in Malaga are just spectacular.
Oh, look at that architecture.
They're just absolutely unbelievable, and actually a lot of it kind of reminds me a bit of Santa Barbara, but it also looks a little Italian.
Because of the topography?
Yeah, because we're at 34 latitude. Is it latitude? And I think that's 36. So it's just a little bit higher, a little bit further north. But it's interesting, their sunsets, I mean, the sun was setting at like 9:30 when we were there. 9:30 at night. It's crazy. And what you do is, you have your breakfast in the morning, and it's nice, and it's, you have great coffee, and then you'll wander around and you'll see the sights. They actually have a Picasso was born there, so they have a Picasso museum. So we went to the Picasso
really?
museum.
What did they have? Was it his tiles and pottery, or
they,
the paintings?
They had
They
had everything. Some paintings, and a lot of stuff that the pottery that I really wasn't familiar with, and so it was a nice little museum. And they actually, while we were there, and we chose not to go to it, but there was a Warhol exhibit in the Picasso museum, so that was kind of cool. So that was
American
a nice
art.
Yeah. But anyway, so, and the thing about Malaga, and I guess it's probably true throughout Spain and probably elsewhere, they don't eat until late. So if you've had a full day of,
Do they take naps?
They do, siestas. So we would oftentimes take a nap at around 6 or, for a couple hours and get up at 9 or 10.
I couldn't go to sleep. I couldn't go to sleep.
We
See,
did.
it's weird.
Because you're walking a lot, and you're eating during the day, and they have a cute pool at the top of the hotel where we were staying.
Oh, wow.
And it was spectacular. So
How late did it stay open?
I think they closed at 1:30.
Oh, gosh.
So
how
we would
beautiful.
oftentimes go to dinner.
And the weather?
And the weather's perfect, absolutely perfect. We would go to dinner at 10 or 11 and then wander around and get some gelato, and then maybe go back for a drink after dinner, and hit the sack and start it all over again.
Living.
But it really is just a very, very special place. The food, like I said, everything's really fresh. Obviously, lots of seafood, lots of steaks, lots of good salads. There was actually a market. It was huge. It was like and it was right on the edge of the downtown, Old Town. And you could find anything you could possibly want there, from cheese to breads. And southern Spain is very well known for their pork.
Their pork, their hams?
The one where they literally slice off the legs.
Like a prosciutto?
Exactly. I think it's called like a Barrico. It's like a prosciutto, and really, really good. This is a shot of
look at
the
that. That's the meats.
Yeah, the meats, and so all the ham is hanging down from there, and just everything about it was just magical.
Did you have manchego, Spanish manchego
Oh, of course.
cheese?
Yes, they have lots of great cheese. One day we actually went. We walked. I would say probably about a mile down the boardwalk, and actually rented a cabana on the beach for the day.
So you can do that there.
And you can do that, and that's really fun. And they'll actually wait on you, so we could order our lunch, and if you wanted something to drink, they would bring it to you. And it was a little crowded, but it was fun.
You get to people watch.
Yeah, and
a lot of Speedos down there, Martha?
Yes.
Are the guys,
Yeah,
because the Spanish guys, aren't they in the Speedos?
I wasn't paying that close attention. I was looking, sort of everything else. But it really, I would say that the one thing about the Spanish is, like, in particular, we saw it multi-generational. They travel, with the kids and the grandparents, and everybody dresses nicely. It seems as though there's not. I think we saw 2 panhandlers in Malaga the whole time we were there.
Kidding
so
me.
you don't see any homeless. The homeless is. If it was there, we didn't see it, and you feel very, very safe. Obviously, if you're out walking at 1 o'clock in the morning, and
Is the beach is sandy, or are there pebbles, or what does it feel
as
like?
I recall, it was sandy. We actually next week I'm going to tell you about Madrid and Marbella. Marbella being about 45 minutes by car from Malaga, and we went to a beach club down there one day, but I'll save that for next week. Let me just make sure I'm telling you everything. It's really something. John and I, my husband and I, love Italy, particularly northern Italy, and we had. For me, I think I like Spain a little bit more, only because I can speak Spanish.
Really? Oh, because the language is easier.
Yeah, it's easier for me so that so I can sort of butcher my way through.
Are they as big in the food culture as the Italians?
It's pretty impressive what they do, and I mean, I oftentimes at dinner would order this salad, which was quite simple. It's mini romaine, baby romaines that they cut in half, and they just do a whole ring of it, and then they would just serve it with a little bit of olive oil and maybe a little bit of vinegar, and it was, and then of course on some heirloom tomatoes, and it was super. Lots of like anchovy things, and just everything about it is just it's fresh. The service for the most part is really good, and everybody just seems happy to be there, so it's kind of cool. Anyway,
sounds fabulous.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend it. And I'm just taking a look. This is again
that's the beach.
This is
the beach back there.
And it's magical. I can't say enough about it. And everybody that has been to Malaga, sort of feels the same way. They just think it's a really super space. We actually flew into the Malaga the airport, and we flew on Norwegian Air, and man, it was packed, and they have a lot of flights from all over Europe, and they have a lot of people coming in. Particularly, I mean, we were there in June, and it was definitely vacation time. Anyway, so that would be my recommendation. So when we come back, we're going to be we're going to take you overseas again. We're going to go to Switzerland. We're going to go up into the mountains into a town called Grindelwald, and also Murren. It's just a spectacular place. We're going to have a little video for you on that. So stay with us.
The Unity Shop, celebrating 100 years of supporting hard-working families and low-income seniors. All year long, hundreds of senior volunteers hand-make clothes, blankets, and toys. Personalize and hand-deliver care packages to seniors unable to shop for themselves, and delivered to the Unity Shop for families on the path to self-sufficiency. The Unity Shop, a shining star for our community for 100 years. Find out more at unityshop.org.
There have been 514 leap years since its creation in 45 BC. Over here at Around the World, we are so thankful that the Mayan calendar did not take that into account. So we will be here to give you amazing travel deals, luxurious destination ideas, and much more every week for a long time to come. Tune in to Around the World Thursdays at 10 a.m. on AM 1290 or at www.atw.tv. Also, be sure to check us out in Santa Barbara on Cox Television On Demand. Around the World. We'll be sure to get you there.
And we're back on Around the World. We have gone around the world today, haven't we? And we're not finished yet.
And
we're going to take you.
We're
going to take you back across the pond over to Switzerland. We're going to be talking about a little town up in the Swiss Alps. Actually, two towns. There's Grindelwald and there's also Murren. They're just sort of across the valley from one another.
And we have our Arthur von Wiesenberger.
And Arthur von Wiesenberger
on this trip.
He is.
So
and he actually sent us something. Apparently there's a little hotel in Grindelwald called Romantique Hotel Schweizerhof. And they have a last-minute mountain freshness, 2 nights in a Superior Twin with a view of the Eiger, which is a beautiful mountain in Switzerland, and all sorts of fun stuff to go along with it. You get a partial body massage, fruits, and all sorts of things. So if you're interested,
any part of body you want.
Very funny. No, I don't know. Anyway, so it's called Romantique Hotel Schweizerhof, and you might want to check it out. There's a lot of really fun places to stay, quaint places to stay in that area. Anyway, Arthur is going to take us along on a recent trip he took to Switzerland. Let's take a look.
Okay. Yeah.
The Jungfrau region of Switzerland is about 2 hours' drive from Zurich to the Bernese Oberland. It is the home of the legendary villages of Wengen, Lauterbrunnen, Murren, and Grindelwald. The storybook scenery is spectacular, both in summer and winter, and the myriad of activities in all seasons makes this an alpine playground for visitors of any romantic Hotel Schweizerhof is centrally located just minutes from the heart of town and the railway station, yet sequestered in an intimate location featuring 360-degree views of the surrounding Alps. Built in the late 1800s, the Schweizerhof has blossomed from a hotel with 20 bedrooms to an impressive luxury resort under the family ownership of Anneliese and Otto Hauser-Seger. Spa provides a menu of massages and treatments. There is a 12-meter-long swimming pool with floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at the mountains beyond. South-facing rooms offer breathtaking views of the Eiger's north face and are well equipped with all technologies, but still cozy with exclusive Swiss.
The top of the Jungfrau, known as the top of Europe, over 11,782 feet. The air is thin.
I've been talking about glaciers shrinking, but here we are.
In 1896, industrialist Adolf Geyer-Zeller began construction of the Jungfrau Railway. As workers labored in the interior of the Eiger, stations were established which today have viewing windows along the dramatic north face. There's a sound and light show immortalizing the work, the hardships, and the losses that occurred constructing this remarkable
When we lift.
At Kleinescheidegg is the historic Bellevue des Alpes Hotel, dating back to 1840. At the foot of the Eiger, it's where Clint Eastwood's Eiger Sanction was filmed. Today it's home to authentic fondue and spontaneous dancing to the jukebox, even with someone else's date. Murren is the gateway to the famous Schildhorn and Piz Gloria. This was the setting for the James Bond movie on Her Majesty's
Murren too. And with a good view, you can even see to Germany, to the Black Forest area. And then over here, in this direction, you can even see our competitor mountain, Titlis, close to Engelberg. And then most famous mountains in Switzerland, Eiger, Mt and Jungfrau. Here you have the best view to these mountains.
The Schilthorn is home to Bond World 007, an interactive exhibition especially focused on Her Majesty's Secret Service. There is a helicopter simulator where one can fly around the mountain and land on the Schilthorn Terrace.
Accommodates the Bond World today, and the Panorama Terrace still provides the best view of Eiger, Mönch and Jungfrau.
There's a cinema showing scenes from the movie and interesting insights. There's even a bobsled where you can get into the action virtually and then have a video souvenir to bring home to all your fans.
Yep. Oh, that skiing looks so much fun.
It is a really beautiful place. I will tell you that a sunny day skiing in that area is absolutely one of the most perfect things in the world to do. It just is super duper. Well, I can't believe it. We actually we've gone around the world again, and it's all over. But we'll be back in a couple of weeks, and we're looking forward to having you join us again. We wanted to thank all the people that make this show possible: Michael Nicholson, Ken Baxter, Elliot Jacobson. We have a couple of new interns that are in. Caitlin and Carmela are here. We want to thank them for sticking around. I want to thank Michael Cervin, talking about his new book is called Santa Barbara Know-It-All. And we had Jerry Holl, who took us to Mount Everest. Not sure about that. And I thank Arthur for doing that movie that we just saw
about some cool things with the Bond and all that stuff, the music and all the fun things. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So,
well, have a great time. We will be back before you know it, and you can check us out on atw.tv if you want to see any of the archive shows, and we'll be back soon.
Next time. See ya.
Thank you for traveling with us today on Around the World. We hope you'll join us for another adventure next week. In the meantime, all of us at Around the World wish you happy trails.